Welcome to our explainer. Today we're diving into a really big question with the help of social psychologist Jonathan Haidt's incredible book, The Righteous Mind.
So let's just start with a question that I'm sure is on a lot of our minds these days. Why does it feel like we're all so deeply and sometimes bitterly divided? Especially when everybody is so completely convinced that they're on the side of good.
To get to an answer, Haidt's research takes us on a deep dive into the very nature of morality. And it starts by challenging one of the most basic assumptions we have about how our own minds work.
You know, we all kind of like to think of ourselves as these super logical beings, right? That we carefully reason our way to our moral conclusions. But Haidt's work, well, it paints a very different picture of what's actually happening inside our heads.
To get at how our minds really work, Haidt gives us this incredible metaphor. Our mind isn't one unified thing. It's divided into two parts, an elephant and its rider.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the power dynamic. I mean, look at this. The rider, that's our conscious reasoning. It's the part that's deliberate, the part that's reasoning why. But the elephant? Oh, the elephant is our intuition, our gut feelings, our snap judgments, all the stuff that's been shaped by millions of years of evolution. It's automatic, it's fast, it's unconscious. And here's the kicker. The elephant is the one calling the shots.
And this really brings us to Haidt's first massive insight. Intuitions come first. Our gut feelings are what drive our moral judgments. The rider, our so-called reason, its job is basically just to justify whatever the elephant already decided to do. It's the servant, not the master.
And this is what Haidt calls the rationalist delusion. It's this belief we have that our reasoning is pure and objective. But in reality, it acts less like a scientist trying to find the truth and more like, I don't know, a press secretary whose only job is to automatically spin and justify any position our intuition takes. It's a tool for persuasion, not for finding truth.
Okay, so if reason is just the PR guy for our intuition, then what actually guides our morality? And that question, it leads us to the next big myth Haidt wants to bust, the idea that morality is made of just one or two simple things.
So the second myth is this idea that morality is, well, pretty simple, that it's really just about harm and fairness. And while those are obviously super important, Haidt shows us that's a really, really narrow view of the moral world.
He points out that so much of the research in psychology has been focused on what he calls, and this is a great acronym, weird societies. That is, Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. In these cultures, morality often gets boiled down to this one simple rule of individual freedom. Basically, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you do you. But it turns out, that way of thinking, it's actually the exception, not the rule around the world.
So to capture all this incredible diversity, Haidt proposes his moral foundations theory. And this is his second huge insight. He says our righteous minds are kind of like a tongue with 6 different taste buds, and each one is designed to pick up on a different kind of moral issue.
And here they are. This just lays it all out so clearly. We've got way more than just care and fairness. There are these other foundations built around things like group loyalty, respect for authority and tradition, this sense of sanctity or purity, and a real pushback against oppression, which he calls the Liberty Foundation. Now here's the thing, we all have these foundations, but the groups we're in, our cultures, our political parties, they teach us which ones to turn up and which ones to turn down. And that right there, that's the key to understanding our political divisions.
Yeah, this is where it all starts to click. According to Haidt's research, political liberals and conservatives are literally building their moral worlds, their moral matrices, using different combinations of these exact foundations.
So check this out. The data shows that liberals tend to build their moral vision mainly on 3 of these: care, liberty, and fairness. Those are dialed way up for them. Conservatives, on the other hand, they tend to use all 6 foundations much more equally. It creates a different moral worldview for sure, but it's still completely coherent. You could say they just have a broader moral palette.
And this is why political arguments can feel like we're speaking different languages, because in a way, we are. One side is emphasizing compassion and equality, while the other side is also bringing in arguments about loyalty and respect and sanctity. It's not that one side is immoral and the other is moral. It's that they're using different moral recipes. They're operating from totally different moral matrices.
Okay, so where does this leave us? What's the big takeaway from all this? How can understanding our righteous minds actually help us bridge some of these huge divides?
Well, it comes down to this central paradox that Haidt points out. Morality binds and blinds. Think about that for a second.
Our moral foundations are what allow us to form these tight-knit, trusting groups. They bind us together. But that exact same morality can make us totally blind to the idea that other groups, with their different moral recipes, might actually have something valuable to say.
Haidt's work isn't telling us to just abandon our values, not at all. But it does offer a way forward. First, we have to acknowledge the elephant. We have to admit that intuition is driving the bus for everyone, and that includes you and me. Second, we have to try to expand our own moral palette. Try to understand those other moral foundations, even if they aren't our favorites. And finally, we have to learn to talk to the other person's elephant. You can't just throw facts at their rider and expect to persuade them. You have to connect on an intuitive, emotional level. See, the goal isn't really agreement. It's genuine understanding.
So, the ultimate lesson from the righteous mind is really a call for a little humility, intellectual humility. Before we jump to dismiss another group as just being irrational or evil, Haidt wants us to ask ourselves this question. If you really want to understand them, what sacred values might you be missing? Because answering that, well, that might just be the first real step toward disagreeing better.